EU industry and therefore creating growth and jobs in Europe. And for this to happen, we need to mobilize large-scale investments in research, in innovation, in market uptake activities. We need to foster synergies between the EU programs, and at the same time, we need to monitor the impact of these investments on the digital transformation of the energy system. If we move to the next slide, you will see in our open public consultation, which closed on the 24th of January, we asked stakeholders in which priority order the European Commission should consider the measures that you see on that slide and which all relate to the uptake of digital technologies. The green color means a high priority and the red is the opposite. And you see that there are two measures that came first in terms of priority. First of all, actions to stimulate investments on the market uptake of already developed digital solutions. And second, the actions that foster research and innovation in new solutions. And that confirmed that we need to address the whole innovation cycle from research done to market, and that we need to think of new measures to scale up investments. And among these new measures is the idea of fostering cooperation between the digital innovation hubs and the centers of expertise on digitalization of energy. This is the idea we'll be discussing today. It's a first step towards the creation of a platform to support innovation ecosystems, gathering both the energy and the digital players, with the objective to increase investments and build capacity. So we invited today the relevant candidate digital innovation hubs selected by member states, together with the established initiatives from the digital and energy industry that have both local and European functions. Next slide, please. I hope this workshop will provide lots of ideas and advice to inform the preparation of our action plan on the digitalization of the energy sector. I'm very much looking forward to the presentations. And without further ado, I'd like to pass the floor now to my colleague, Anne-Marie Sasson, for her introduction on behalf of DigiConnect. Anne-Marie, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Vincent. So I want to explain you first what the digital innovation hubs are, and also what is the framework of collaboration that we are building up in this network of European digital innovation hubs that could really help local communities working on the energy transition to work together. So the general idea of the network of European Digital Innovation Hub is that there will be around 200 centers in Europe, which are geographically spread. So they are really everywhere in Europe, basically one per NUTS2 region in every country, that supports companies, especially SMEs, with their digital transformation. Because we see that for many SMEs, it's really difficult to understand what are the right technologies for them to invest in and to make advantage, to profit also from the advantages that digital innovations can bring. So this network will focus on altogether on all the sectors that we have in Europe, and it will also be geographically spread. But every one of these centers will have its own specialization based on what are the strengths in that region, so what are the digital competences that are available, and what are the needs of the companies that are in that region. And some of these digital innovation hubs, they will also work on the energy sector, but not all of them. So the idea is that one local center, they offer local support to companies in the local language, addressing also local needs that exist, and understanding the reality of those companies, the economical context. And what they need to do is, of course, offer support, but also create a regional ecosystem of user and suppliers, of companies that can really support each other with the digital transformation. And the main competitive or feature that the European Digital Innovation Hub is that they allow companies to test innovations before they need to invest in. So this is what we call test before invest. And the idea is, for instance, that if a company wants to use a new technology, let's say, I'm just now saying the example of robots, that they can test out this robot for a few weeks in their own production process. They can really understand, you know, what does it mean for my production? What does it mean for the people that I have in the company to work with this robot, so that they can truly make a return on investment analysis before they decide to really invest in these robots. And to build the regional ecosystem, the idea would be that in the ecosystem there is maybe a robot supplier who could then work with a more user type of company, and together then they can test before invest and adapt products to the real needs of these companies. So we will have 200 of those, and every one of them will be specialized in a certain technology. And whenever a company, a local company, would need support on something that the local Digital Innovation Hub cannot provide, because if you specialize, it means there are also things you cannot do, then there would be another hub in the network who would have this type of expertise. So the hubs would really work together, they would form a network, and apart from forwarding customers from one to the other things that they will do in the context of the networking is that they will also share best practices with other hubs, so that you can have common learning and therefore offer also a better service, because it's not easy to address all these SMEs, and it's good if you can look to good examples existing elsewhere. Another very important task which they have to do is also that they should, what I call here, disseminate digital capacities that are existing, that are centrally developed, that they should also disseminate these digital capacities to the local community. And for instance, in Digital Europe program, this is the whole European Digital Innovation Hubs are part of Digital Europe program. We will also build in the near future a data space for energy. So this would be just one example of a central resource where all the Digital Innovation Hubs working on energy sector should know about and should also disseminate the advantages of using this capacity to their local ecosystem. And in order to make this networking work, we have a special node in the network which we call the Digital Transformation Accelerator. And the Digital Transformation Accelerator, they will organize meetings, for instance, meetings with all the hubs working on the energy sector, where then they can discuss together common topics which are of interest to all of these hubs, and where once a trust would be established to these hubs, they could also go further and, for instance, see if there are common services that all of these hubs focusing on energy could deliver to their customers. And since we would know the Digital Innovation Hubs working on the energy sector, it would also be a good means to work together with DG Energy and to see how the, for instance, all the actions coming out of the digitalization of energy action plan, how those could be also supported by the Digital Innovation Hubs working on the energy sector. And also the Digital Innovation Hubs can, of course, also provide feedback on this action plan and see how actions could be improved or what needs to be done to really make this happen. So if I go to the next slide. I just want to explain you a bit where we are with this European Digital Innovation Hubs, because maybe some of you have also sent a proposal to us. Our deadline for proposals was the 22nd of February. I hope so. But we are still in the selection phase of this network of European Digital Innovation Hubs. We have a two-step selection process. The first step was that member states were going to designate European Digital Innovation Hubs. They've done that. There were 331 candidate European Digital Innovation Hubs. And those have now all been invited to send the proposal to a central call organized by us. And we have received 283 proposals, which we will now evaluate. We will send the outcome of the evaluation in the month of May to all the proposers, and then we will prepare the grants, and then we hope that the network will start in September 2022. And just to show you that this network will have a lot of variety, I've here some numbers of what are the specializations that we could discover in the network of in the candidate entities. And we also saw 32 who mentioned that they would work on energy. Not all of these will be selected because, you know, we will select only 200 out of these 283 received. But we could expect that a fair number of these hubs will really work on the energy sector, and that they can make a very good contribution to the digitalization of energy action plan. That they will not only work together with the hubs who are working on energy, but also with others from who they could learn, maybe also very relevant technologies. And I hope that this will really be an effective way to support the digitalization of the energy sector. Thank you very much. I hope also today that the workshop, which is of course the first encounter, that you will also come up with useful advice or steps that you need to work on first, so that the Digital Transformation Accelerator, when we start with this network, can take up these actions and can organize relevant meetings for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. That's very interesting and a very good introduction to this workshop. So after these introductory words, I would like to open the first panel, which will cover the opportunities, the challenges, but also the actions for an EU innovation ecosystem adapted to the local needs. And for that, I pass the floor to Ludwig Karg, who will moderate that session. Ludwig is the managing director of Baum Consult in Germany, and is very knowledgeable about both energy and digital matters, is involved in several centers of expertise, such as Bridge, the EERA on smart energy systems, ETIPSnet. So I think he's the best place to moderate that panel. Ludwig, the floor is yours.
Thank you for this nice introduction. Can we switch? Yeah, okay, we have good sound now. Yes, as said before, the workshop is about energy centers of excellence, expertise, digital innovation hubs, etc. I don't repeat that. Above all, we are interested in learning about needs and expectations to an EU level platform on that. Today, we want... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I would like to remind everybody to switch off their mic, please. Thank you. Ludwig, back to you.
Yeah, I was trying to introduce this this very session here a bit. Today we want to concentrate a bit on the local and on the regional level. That means a governance level below the national level. We want to better understand the needs and the challenges of these local, regional institutions, whether they be private or public, when it comes to establish innovation environments to foster the development, but also the uptake of such digital energy solutions. Above all, I think we want to learn how an EU level platform can benefit the local level and vice versa. So this is my intention. But before I introduce our 5 panelists and ask them about their views, let's do a quick poll with our audience. Our partners in Brussels have prepared a Slido This is how you get to this Slido. I think meanwhile you know that you either scan the QR code or you join at slido.com and enter the code. The question that we ask to you is mainly what do and what should the digital and energy local regional innovation ecosystems focus on? What is it that makes it special to look at that on a local regional level? You can, I don't know, you can put buzzwords like building renovation, 5G, smart meters, or whatever you want. Name us some buzzwords, what you think is important when it comes to digitalization of energy on local regional level. While you are doing that, I would ask my 5 panelists to show up if you want to switch on so we can test you are all there. Yes, fine. And then I will start. I think it's best to do with the ladies. But let's look what people out there think would be worth discussing. Energy efficiency, data access, artificial intelligence, enabling the communities, the consumers. So it's also about people, not only technology. Open access, software as a service, many, many, many buzzwords. Climate neutrality, it's not only about energy, it's also about climate neutrality. And this is, I think, a good hint towards not only concentrating on energy, but using this entire ecosystem with cross-sector, cross-domain approaches. I think that's enough. I think that's enough. Let's go and see. And if you don't mind, Joel, I start with you. Joel Mastelitz is a professor at the University of Applied Sciences in Western Switzerland. And she is also active in the Council of the European Network of Living Labs, responsible for a task force even there on energy and environment. That's why we invited you. Obviously, local is where people live, where people work, and where also customers are. So what is your view? What is the focus on a local, regional level when it comes to building an ecosystem of companies and people? You know, you have 2 minutes only, and I have to.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to the timing. So I think what is really interesting is to make the link between digital and energy, which is complicated because these are different sectors and we would like to combine the sectors. And I think that when we saw in Slido the answers, they're talking about sectorial approaches, and also with these digital innovation hubs, this is also like a sectorial approach. And I think that the danger would be to have verticals not coordinating, not collaborating with each other. So I think that on a European level, with the European Network of Living Labs, we have approximately 200 living labs working as innovation intermediaries in the different regions. And what we try to do with the office and to centralize the services in order to build synergies. And I think in this program, what would be really important is to build the trust among the actors, to build synergies, to be able to in practice, to go through the line from research to the market, but also not to enter into a sectorial approach. Because when we think about energy buildings, we could say that buildings and energy efficiency is really important. But at the end of the day, now we have the mobility and EV that is developing, so we need an interaction between mobility and the building sector. So I think what would be really interesting from my point of view is the interaction between the different sectors. So the intersectorial approach, the interdisciplinary approach as well, and the difference between the European approach and the local approach, and how to really build knowledge and be able to build on best practices. Because on the paper, that sounds really great, but in the field, it's really complicated to be able to transfer from one hub to the other and try and build from best practices. And also in terms of skills, my last verse is about skills. We really need these skills and to disseminate. That means that we need e-learning, I think.
Thank you, Joel. We are in a hurry, but allow me one more question. You said you are roughly with 200 living labs, living because they involve people in real life. How many of these roughly deal with energy or energy-related questions these days?
I think that there are 50 working in the smart city environment and energy. That means that it's broader than energy. And what is really interesting as well is maybe to connect others that are not working in energy, because at the end of the day, energy is in every sector at the moment. So I think it's important to connect also to the other that are not working only on energy.
Thanks for this first insight. We will come back to it. I will give the floor to Claudia Battistelli. She is a research associate at the RWTH in Aachen. That sounds very technical, but I know that you also deal with people. How do you take people's needs, customers' needs into account when you look at all these energy, digital, technical topics?
How we look at customers and people in general, when it comes to local digital ecosystems, also recalling one of the passwords, the keywords that was put in the Slido, skills are very important. And one of the focus that one of the top priorities for local digital ecosystems to be successful is to produce awareness on the opportunities that digital technologies give, and making sure to add in the local ecosystem the technological talent that is necessary to cope with the technological changes. And this means adding the required skills to the local labor market, but also beyond the labor market to the society, to improve the life of citizens and of the business and markets locally. And another important thing related to that is the capacity to attract talent and expertise, and also open talent networks to facilitate this awareness and also improve the quality of life of people and then also of the customers.
So this is another angle of few capacities, building the capacities for this digitalization of energy. Yeah. I think we will hear a lot more from Rafael Mayogasia. But first of all, my third lady on the panel, please. Gintares Korupskaite from Lithuania. May I call you the practitioner on the panel? So you are with the DSO in Lithuania and you do data analysis there. You are also responsible for rolling out the digitalization strategy as such to enable this energy transition. You have it in the strategy. What are the data that you are analyzing and what is the relation to your strategy?
Thank you very much for the introduction. Exactly, I will present the more DSO perspective today. And one of the key challenges or focus areas that we see currently is to help enable the creation of a well-functioning energy market, especially, for example, in Lithuania, where we currently are going through both deregulation of the market as well as rolling out the smart metering program. We are just at the start of empowering our consumers to be able to take data into their hands and make better driven decisions. And we see that the creation of a coordinated EU platform should really focus on helping create this well-functioning energy market through the support of education of citizens and SMEs in how to participate in it, as well as build trust and understanding for the opportunities that it holds. So that, I think, is going to be one of the key cornerstones.
And when you do data analytics, I mean, as you say, you deal a bit with personal data, I guess. I mean, isn't that
Definitely.
Thin ice.
Definitely. I think one of the challenges also as a DSO that we have to be a neutral market enhancer and enabler, but also to provide the right protection of privacy for consumer data, and to build exactly that trust, especially when the market is just forming and the new players are coming into the market and they are not well known. Trust is going to be very essential.
Okay, we will come back. Then next on my list is Sergio Oliveira, a professor and the head of business finance in the Innovation and Energy Center of Politecnico Torino. That sounds technical and finance. When I met Sergio first, we were talking about involving people in self-consumption communities in the Aosta Valley. So how do we bring that together, Sergio?
Well, in my opinion, the focus should be on enabling the citizen to be at the center of energy transition. And this can happen through the so-called renewable energy communities as defined by the European Directive RED 2 or 2018. Because renewable energy communities are a powerful catalyst for energy transition, because they imply the use of information and communication technology, of Internet of Things, of artificial intelligence, in order to make self-consumption possible. Please note that so the focus should be on moving from an ICT, IoT, in AE center approach to an energy-driven approach, where information and communication technology and all related technicalities are a tool that makes energy transition capable. So let's start from energy, not from ICT.
Question, I mean, you talk, and we have been talking a lot about energy communities, the purpose and the limitations also. The limitations are a bit going away, especially in Italy. But when it comes to such energy community self-consumption, what is it that we need in terms of digital? I mean, do we have these solutions already, or do they have to be built, or where are we there?
Well, you need a digital platform in order to share the economic benefits of renewable energy communities on one side. On the other side, you must be able, prospectively, to control and drive the load, the electric loads. For example, the e-charging stations are at the core of energy communities.
So we are still a long way to go until we can implement them really. So last but not least on my panel is Rafael Mayo Garcia. We have been talking a lot about that it's necessary to learn from each other. He is speaking for EERA. EERA is the European Educational Research Association. He is the coordinator of the Transversal Joint Program Digitalisation for Energy and the head of scientific computing at CIMA, the Spanish largest research center. So he knows what he talks about. Sergio, please can you switch off your... Okay, now Rafael, what is your view on that?
Thank you, Ludwig. I'm just trying to elaborate a little more on what Joel, Claudia, Gintar, and Sergio have mentioned. Well, I guess that we are moving to a decentralized energy source production market in which different energy renewable resources will be available made to these local communities. So in this sense, probably these local actors should do as much as they can, and they will better know what digital skills should be implemented in their specific regions and domains. So in this sense, we guess that we need to provide them with all the tools and all the capacities for adopting these digital solutions. I mean, all of the digital solutions can be good for them, but of course, not all of them should be integrated in their respective set of solutions. So they would better know what to integrate. In this sense, I guess that these energy digital innovation hubs that have been presented previously by Marie should be coordinated with those regional digital innovation hubs that DigiConnect is promoting. So in this sense, this energy DSOs will have a regional digital innovation hub close to them, so they could collaborate and they could adapt the solutions that are being available. In this sense, the energy platform that we are now pursuing and we are thinking of how to implement it could be a better joint point for avoidance of double efforts and encouragement of synergies between different actors by means of this European platform, including, of course, the skill teaching that has been mentioned before.
Rafael, I mean, you are leading in the second question that we wanted to tackle. I mean, in the second panel, we will learn about who has the right institutions and what institutions do we need. Here we concentrate a bit more on the content. When you say we will have this and we will need this European level platform, it has to somehow be linked to the national and the subnational, the regional platforms and ecosystems. Who is it actually who should learn? I mean, when we talk about knowledge exchange, who is it that we address on this regional level? Is it the DSO? Is it the SME? Is it the customer? Who should benefit from this cooperation on EU and national, local, regional level?
Well, I guess that the European Commission, and I agree with that, it must focus on a human-centric approach of this digitalization effort. In this sense, let's say that the final user, the so-called prosumer, should be the one that should benefit at the end from all this effort. In this sense, I guess that we need to be careful because, as the other panelists have mentioned, we are putting their data in their hands to exploit them, but they must be aware of what they can do. So we must avoid this digital gap and fight against this digital gap for maybe older people or some other people who will not be able to profit from all the capacities that are being made available by means of the digitalization of the energy sector. So I guess that they should be the final one, but of course that DSO and SMEs will profit from these digital capabilities. I guess that the whole chain will be able to benefit from that.
And can I forward that question to Sergio? I mean, you are not only dealing with self-consumption communities, you are also a business professor and you deal a lot with the economies. Who would benefit and how? What would an SME in Aosta Valley or Torino, what would they expect from such a multi-level cooperation and knowledge exchange?
Well, the interest is linked to the capacity of these processes, including renewable energy communities, but not limited to them. The capacity to create local supply chains by designer, installers, maintenance, so that practically speaking, what I'm seeing today, I'm involved in a series of real RECs, is that the real interest of the driver is the capacity of create jobs or create business for those installing the installations and the technology usable for self-consumption in communities.
Okay, so Pintari, this is the people you have in the DSO. So it's not only the academic people and not only the developers of products and SMEs, it's also the practitioners in a DSO like yours that could benefit from such a multi-level cooperation. Is that true?
Yes, yes.
I would also agree, definitely. We would benefit from that because there's as much that we can innovate from within ourselves. And as a DSO, of course, we have some boundaries for the fastness of how we can take in knowledge and also put it in use, in action. Therefore, taking in knowledge from elsewhere, that would greatly benefit also our own evolution.
So the practitioners can benefit from such local ecosystem platforms linked to the international one. Coming to the academic part, Claudia, that's obviously you. I mean, you keep cooperating, of course, horizontally, vertically in academia, but what would such a new approach, new leveled approach of platforms, what would that bring to to your work?
Well, I mean, the universities and research centers in general are today every time, every day, much more involved also in the practical reality of the markets and the companies, and the connection with system operators and other energy stakeholders is a reality today. So academia and research should not be seen today purely theoretically as it was traditionally, but it's become more involved in the real world, and it has a strong presence and also a strategic role in the developments and success also at industrial level. And this arrives up to the end consumer of the energy service.
You are working in the E.ON Institute for Automation, right? At the
Yes.
RWTH,
Yes.
so you are pretty much linked to the energy sector as well. How much relevance has developing SME-based products? How much relevance has that in such a research center?
I mean, we develop in general tools that relate either to hardware but also to software, open access mainly, so that they can be used freely to a certain extent. And what we do especially is to develop innovative solutions that apply to the energy sector, but with a very strong focus to digitalization and automation. So it's a 360 degrees potential that we can deliver based on what is needed. And this comes in parallel to the research that we do to follow the real needs of the energy sector.
Last not least, Joel, I mean, when I said Gintare is my practitioner, you are also practitioner. You're also practitioner of dealing with people in their living labs. I mean, what does that mean when we really look at the worlds of the people that live and consume and buy and so on? What should such a new way of cooperation, a new way of building ecosystems, what would you expect from that?
Yeah, I think that at the moment what we need is dissemination of technologies among the public and be able to develop new services based on energy technologies and digital energy technologies. So in terms of promoting investment, what is missing really for the citizen is the financial tools and being able to develop business models that promote the dissemination of new energy services in the building sector or in the mobility sector. I think it's always the same problem of financing tools that don't exist. So I think that if we want to empower the people, what we can do is to co-design with them new investment tools so that they can benefit from it. But then in terms of e-learning, for instance, your question, I think that when we're talking about SMEs and business to business, I think that we have to be realistic and being able to train SMEs in terms, for instance, in service design for digital energy and not dream about educating the citizens so that they become heroes. I think I am a social marketeer, you know, so I think it's really important to have this human-centered approach. But at the end of the day, we need to be realistic as well. And the people, they have lots of different priorities, and we need to build with them the best default setting and also financial tools. But I don't think that they will save the world. I think that they need to be integrated in the development of new tools and services. But at the end of the day, we need to connect the business part and the SME part to have real business models behind it.
Yeah, you said it, you say it, Joel, we are not dreamers. None of us is a dreamer. We are realistic. And we have heard a lot about what we should deal with this new cooperation, and also a bit with whom, but how can we make it happen? Let me ask this last question of this session, but let me ask it to the panel first. What is necessary so we make it happen? It's a bit a new approach, EU level platform, regional level platforms, ecosystems, cooperating. I'm not saying it's new, but there is quite some reason to think about how could we make it happen? What would be challenges? What would be concrete actions that we could take to make it really happen as we have been describing it for half an hour now? Give us some buzzwords, please. Can we show the Slido again? And if the question is, can be jointly taken, you can think about vertical cooperation, local, regional level, national level, up to EU level. But I think we have also heard that it's not forbidden that we have horizontal cooperation between the ecosystems. So what will make that collaboration work, effective, efficient? Oh, we get one after the other. I cannot read so quickly. Create new market designs. Standardization. Yeah, it builds a word cloud. Standardization, common understanding, new market designs. So it's not only about technology, it's also about markets, goods on the markets, players, maybe a bit of what has been called the new market design, harmonized European market designs, HAMREM. We will hear Professor Antomonti in the next session. Well, we are in the phase where we get a lot of recommendations to the makers of the platform and the ecosystems. Let me turn to the panel again. So we have roughly 5-8 minutes to go. If from your position, and I'm open who wants to answer first, if from your position you would want to give a recommendation to the makers of these platforms and ecosystems, what would be your recommendations? What should we concentrate on? What would be priority actions? What would you do jointly? Who wants to start?
Can I propose?
Sergio.
Yes, in my opinion, the priority is not to limit ourselves to testing in academic areas, but to create case studies that are based on profitable business plans. So, practically speaking, today in Italy, but also in Europe, there's a lot of money on energy transition. At the same time, the rising cost of energy are a major driver of interest by stakeholders. So, if we succeed in testing innovation, including informatics, ICT, IoT, and so on, within profitable business models and business plans, we can be successful. Obviously, within that context, we can cope with the challenges of privacy, of metering, of interoperability, on the capacity of driving loads, and including also new public-private partnership models that are closely related to what RED II directive is asking for. That is the capacity of new private entities that embeds public bodies but can behave like private entities.
Sounds like public-private partnerships. Next volunteer from my panel. What are the recommendations to the makers of this new beast?
Yeah, from my side, I guess I just agree with Sergio. I guess that there should be a strong cooperation with the private sector. And from that point on, we should work on, let's say, make a map of digital solutions already achieved that have provided good results in order to avoid double efforts. And just to be very brief, I guess it is also very important to know what the TSOs are doing and what the TSOs are doing. Because, for example, regarding data analysis and so on, probably the TSOs have invested a lot of money just providing artificial intelligence and decision-making tools for knowing how to put the force. So it is cornerstone to my knowledge just to know what has been already done by the private sector who are really investing a lot of money, and from that point on, start building. So just elaborating a little more on what Sergio has mentioned, I just fully agree with him.
Thanks. So now we have turned from ladies first to ladies last. Who is next? Who wants to be next?
I could mention further. I would really welcome a systems design approach towards looking at the thematic areas from a systematic point of view, meaning to ensuring that we have the right stakeholders from all the different levels of society and business academia, including also DSO, and setting out the clear rules of responsibilities for each in order to ensure a nice and seamless flow towards actual solutions. In Slido, we saw one of the mentions guts towards DSOs, and I understand sometimes where they feel that DSOs are big and sluggish, and we are regulated in a lot of ways, and also to ensure the right protection of the different data. So we need help also from academia and business to help us along the way to make the transition easier.
Claudia, can you offer help?
Yes, no, I fully agree to what was said by Hintar and also by the previous. And a comment is that it's easier to say it than do it in practice. So cooperation between public and private sector is really easy to state, but probably it's also a challenge to realize it. Because we are talking of stakeholders that traditionally have also in the digital strategy can have at least conflicting interests, and these have to be overcome. And so at a higher level, to facilitate the cooperation that is really necessary to build up a successful digital ecosystem, there should be a supporting action to build and to create a forward-looking common digital strategy, and also to build a shared vision around it so that everyone can work really in the same direction for the same goals.
Thank you. Last not least, Joel, you have been pointing to the real people, to the people that live in their living labs. The way is long from the commission down to the people in the labs. How do we manage that one?
Yeah, we need these bottom-up approaches, but we need also the shared vision, as was said before. So we need to be able to mix both approaches, like the top-down approach and the bottom-up approaches. And I fully agree that these public-private partnerships are really necessary, but also public-private people partnership. And what we are missing are the governance models, and we are trying a lot of different models, but we need to work more on the model so that we can build trust and encourage the knowledge transfer among them in the field. And I think that in terms of e-learning, I think that we need to develop also the competencies in the service design, the market design, in the system design thinking, so that we can also bring forward new products and services.
So thanks a lot. Taking people into account when developing the technologies and the markets. What I have heard, we need top-down and bottom-up at the same time. What I have heard is it's about public-private partnerships. What I have heard to some degree from Sergio, for example. We have to accept that regions are different in Europe, but still it's worthwhile talking to each other, also not only bottom up and top down, but also horizontally, learn from each other. So enabling this learning knowledge exchange process is important. What we need is exchange of experience. What we need is exchange of knowledge. What we need is tools, of course, that enable this knowledge exchange, but also tools that let companies and people, and I would say, and I haven't heard that, we would have another discussion on how to involve the city developers, the spatial developers. That is also, I think, something that we need to take into account on the regional, local level. We have to manage the flow of the knowledge. This today is a start. There will be another session that talks about how to implement it, whom to manage it, who to pay for it, or whatsoever. We are done. Thanks a lot to Joel, Claudia, Quintare, Sergio, and Raphael. I leave my panel and the audiences to a 10 minutes break. Please be back at 5:30. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Can somebody please confirm that you can hear and see me?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, my name is Sandro Delia. I work for the European Commission in the unit dealing with the transformation of digital transformation of industrial ecosystem. And I have here the pleasure of moderating this panel with a very interesting, subject. The subject is the way towards a European digital energy platform. Now, when you talk about the digital energy, the energy part is much more important than the digital part. I mean, if we don't have clean energy, we cannot create digital technology. This is clear. But nevertheless, the digital technology is very much needed because whenever you deal with the problem of optimizing, distributing the energy and so on, digital technology is everywhere. With all the problems that this implies, for example, in terms of cybersecurity, of reliability, of ease of use, and so on. And we need definitely a digital platform. Now, what is a digital platform? The problem is that platform is a word which can mean several different things. I come from the software. I was a software guy for many years. So if you talk with me, I say a platform is a set of computers which talk to each other with some specific rules. In many other contexts, people typically consider a platform a group of persons, of people, of entities which interact one with the other, which collaborate, which work together. The common point, the common element of these two meanings of platform is that you need rules, you need governance, you need a way to work together. Otherwise, nothing can function, can work. In this context, there is something quite important which is being done by the European Commission now, and this is the Data Act that you probably have heard about. It's been proposed a couple of days ago by the European Commission. What is the Data Act? It's the attempt of regulating, of making some order in the way in which data is exchanged in industrial context. So, for example, in manufacturing, you have in a factory a lot of data, which typically stays in the factory, does not go outside. In transport, you have a lot of data in your car, but the data stays in the car, does not go outside. The same is in energy. In energy, we have a lot of data which is behind the energy meter. No? In our houses or in any industrial complex, you know a lot about how energy is consumed, when is needed, how is needed, and so on. But this data does not go outside, cannot be used. And of course, this is something quite critical because you cannot simply make this data available for everybody. First, data is a value. So maybe the owner of the data needs a compensation. Second, you don't want that everybody knows if you are at home or not by looking at the energy consumption of your home. So there are a lot of problems around this, so that we need to define clear rules. Now, why am I'm here? I'm here because I work on the European Digital Innovation Hubs, on the network of European Digital Innovation Hubs, which we are launching now. You heard a few minutes ago from my head of unit that we are now starting the evaluation of the proposals. In a few months, we will have a network of hubs across Europe, and several, I mean, quite a good number of them, I think more than 30, plan to work on energy. So I have a very direct interest in making in such a way that there is a community, there is a platform, there is a group of people talking together to see how to collaborate and work together on energy, digital application for energy. There is another term which I would like to introduce, is the Digital Transformation Accelerator, or DTA. You know that here in Brussels, we are very good at creating names and acronyms. The Digital Transformation Accelerator, said very simply, is the central office of this network of digital innovation hubs, which also will start in a few months, and that will have the role of coordinating the activities of the hubs to make sure that they talk to each other, they know what is happening, they can work together on whatever they need to do. So my interest is especially in this area, digital innovation hubs and digital transformation accelerator. Now, I would like to give the floor to my panelists. I start with Maria Laura Trifiletti, which is the coordinator of the European Technology Innovation Platform Smart Network for Energy Transition. And the question that I would like you to address is, what can you tell from your practical experience on how to create synergies, how to make sure that there is a common work at member state, European level between all the different actors which are active in this area. So, Maria Laura, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Sandro. Thank you for having invited me here today. And if we can go next slide. I would like to share the ETIPSnet experience with you. So in the next slides, we will see who ETIPSnet is, but I want to focus here for the purpose of our workshop about the structure, the goals, and the topics that we treat, and how we could also create synergies among a potential platform that of EDIH. ETIPSnet, as you correctly said, stands for Smart Networks for Energy Transition, and since 2016, when it has been created under the SET plan, Action 4 specifically, the main goal is to guide identified R&I priorities that, of course, work toward the Europe energy transition, but going beyond smart electricity grids. What are the stakeholders that we are around the table? And you can see here in the slides, we have around the table organizing a governance, as you said, Sandro, with some rules, European Association, we have large companies, mid-caps, SMEs, research centers, universities, and how we guarantee that they talk each other and they try to find a common language as well, and they find the freedom and the possibility to, let's say, put ahead their own priorities, and then arriving to common priorities that we always merge in key documents like roadmaps. We have a roadmap 2020-2030 that we are now going to update by this December, and also implementation plans where we propose the European Commission some key topics that we will, some key R&I priorities that we would like, that the stakeholders would like to see funded in the programs from the European Commission. So in terms of governance, you can see here, we have a governing board, an executive committee with more technical people coming from the working groups. The working groups are one key tool, of course, for synergies among all these different actors. And here you can see different topics that we treat, but one key one that I would like to address here is the one for digitalization and customer participation. So we could really find a good synergies with this working group, apart all the other ecosystem in energy that we treat within our working groups. And what we do is also having try to always reach a national level. If you go to the next slides, we can see we have this national stakeholder coordination group that aim to interact with local and national projects. How? Well, you can see here two different ways that we are trying to organize and push with our chair, Michele De Nigris, and also with the previous one, Michael Hubner, also with the support of Ludwig Kark that you saw in the previous panel. How? Elaborating and disseminating of national, regional, and local activities and projects for what? To identify key exploitable results contributed to the SET plan. We elaborate policy, brief, spotlights and recommendation from the knowledge community. We also try to identify and analyze outstanding projects and results achieved at national level through survey, through forum, through knowledge community areas that we are trying to create. However, we have to highlight that the role of regional local innovation programs on energy transition is still marginal versus nationally new ones, apart from some exception that you can see here. But the important is that we really are pushing for it. And how we are pushing with a strategy, if you go to the last slides and then I close, I hope on time. This is an action strategy. We identified the local and national platform for potential collaboration. You see national association, industry associations, innovation platform, technology platform as us. Identifying also partnership initiative of member states that can be key, like the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, we will see this also later probably, and the SET plan implementation working groups. Then we test locally. We test a direct contact with local and national regional platforms, and then organizing also topical workshop. And then we will see how we can expand further. So this is, let's say, our structure and what we are doing at the moment.
Thank you, Maria Laura. Now I would like to hear Jatta Jussila, who is the CEO of Click Innovation, which is a company working on sustainable solutions in Finland. Jatta, up to you.
Thank you very much, Sandro, for the introduction and for inviting me here. As said, I'm Jatta Jussila, the Managing Director of Click Innovation, and we are an open innovation cluster for sustainable development. We are based in Finland, and we are active in 3 areas: the energy system transition, circular economy, and bioeconomy. And we are, as a company, a not-for-profit one, and we are owned by 30 large companies, international ones, and 16 universities and research institutes. And having said that, so we are basically a public-private partnership in our structure. Then my next slide, please. Yes, thank you. With this slide, I want to convey 3 messages. The first one relates to the situation when driving system change in a collaborative manner. And as we are here driving the energy system transition with the help of digitalization. So as said in the previous panel already several times, we also think that cross-sectoral operation is very much required. And by cross-sectoral, I mean not just the collaboration between the public and private sectors, but very much the collaboration between the different industries involved, as said also earlier, that in this case of digitalization of the energy system, it is crucial that the ICT and data-related companies will get together with the energy sector companies and also with the industries that are using energy. And of course, then the citizen society needs to be also somehow engaged in the discussion. And the second message with this slide that I want to convey relates to the bubbles on the right-hand side. And with that, the main message is that in parallel to creating the solutions, when doing the R&D and demonstrations and all, an activity towards market shaping needs to take place. And by market shaping, we need actions that are, first of all, taken forward in a collaborative manner, but that are taking care of the operational environment, its development, so that it is able, the markets are able to uptake the solutions that are invented by the innovators. If this is not done in parallel, then the innovations and research outcomes that are developed in the several projects that are also financed by the public money, they will not be able to sort of penetrate the markets. And then the third message with this slide that I wanted to convey relates to, if somebody could click the mouse, please, there should be a box. Yes, it relates to the way this kind of collaboration is managed. So here I have listed a couple of critical success factors from our experience that need to be there in order to be successful when managing collaboration. And the one, maybe I could first point out the second bullet point that relates to the shared agenda and goals. In our view, it is crucial that when running a system change in a collaborative manner, it is very crucial that this group of stakeholders, they have a shared agenda, and that this agenda is generated in a co-creative process, in a democratic co-creative process. Not top-down and nor bottom-up, but in a co-creative process, because that is a way to generate trust inside the group of stakeholders. That is also a way to generate a common language for these players, because the public sector players and the industries typically speak a different language, but also the industrial sectors, they use the different language. So there, anyways, in order to run this change, a common language is required, and therefore this co-creation is a way to work when we operate these kind of platforms. And then maybe I think we could take my third slide. Yes, thank you. Here with this, I wanted to point out that there already are quite many platforms of people collaborating or networks. And this is just an example of a network that we have built inside the ERA Smart Energy Systems called Validation Network of Living Labs and Test Beds for Energy. There we have also collaborated with Enel previously to build this network of more than 70 partners across Europe. And with this network, we have targeted at validation collaboration for the different types of solutions that projects are developing, also digital solutions. And please, if you could just click the slide one more time, please, for me, thank you. And now that we are planning and building this new partnership called CTP, in that we have been planning to sort of go beyond the validation work and move towards a full impact network with by gathering together more different types of intermediaries to work with us to maximize the impact of all the innovation work. So with this slide, I just want to call for collaboration between the different networks that are operating in this field. And thank you. Happy to be here today.
Thank you, Jatta. So the next panelist is Antonello Monti, professor at Aachen University on complex power systems and coordinator of a couple of projects, Horizon projects, which deal with energy. Antonello, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning also from my side. Please go directly to the next slide. I put together, first of all, a view. Could you please click on the next slide? On key points and then give concrete examples. One first point is create European-wide digital solutions. So the problem we had faced in the past, we only had projects that were looking at technical solutions, specific and regionally limited solutions, while we think we need to have the possibility to think wider, I would say. And the other problem is that affects a lot of the project, and I've been involved in them, so I'm not criticizing. I mean, just thinking about what we have done in the past is that we develop a solution and then we start talking about it. While we should work in the direction of creating consensus from the beginning, which means projects tend to be in technical development to be kind of a closed environment in the first phase, and then they don't fit into the external world as they could. And then, we think about how to keep solution alive very late in our process. Last but not least, in this scenario, we have to think about methods to engage locally. Given those 4 prerequisites, which I think are critical to build a way forward, let me give you 2 concrete examples that are in the next 2 slides on where we have been trying to change things. As mentioned, I'm coordinator of 2 large projects at the moment. The larger one where I'm involved is called OneNet, One Network for Europe. I think the name says it all. We want to break this regional view. It's a project that has demonstration really across an incredible number of countries. I had the pleasure to work with 73 partners trying to really see how things can be done. But what we realized from the beginning is that if we do it the usual way, we develop solutions, and then we come to the end of the project, and people outside maybe heard a presentation in a workshop and so, but we didn't create a dialogue with the external stakeholders. For that reason, we established in the project an innovative platform we call Griffon, that stands for Great Forum. That's what we are doing is to really involve people in the discussion. We make our deliverable available to the community. We discuss our conclusion even before discussing in the official review meetings, trying to bring the community to be part of the project. We don't want the OneNet solution to be the solution of the project. We want the project to be the one that develop proposal. They are discussed in the forum and then brought forward. What we hope is that with this exercise, not only will have deliverable have been discussed in a broader audience than usual, but also we have the idea to summarize the discussion in 2 key documents on interoperability and market design. They have really a European view. And that's this first point I had in my concept, go beyond regional and try to think at European level. And that brings me to my last slide, which talks about another one aspect, keeping things alive. We have a project that is going to be signed as a grant agreement in the next week or so. So it's a preview here that we are talking about, the coordination and support actions of building an interoperability network for the energy transition. Here, the target is really to overcome the issue I mentioned before. We develop a lot of solutions, ideas in project, that the project ends and solutions are lost. How we solve this? We need to build a network. We can call it a platform of people. Going back to the introduction, it's not a software platform, but it's a platform of people that will manage platform of software. That's the idea, all in all. And try to tackle the aspect of knowledge base, maturity model, the governance, so how you keep it alive, and provide also methodology of test and certification, with the idea that whatever we develop today will be old in a couple of years. So we need to have a continuous process of establishing the way to test is a solution is acceptable, compatible. I mean, the bottom line here, what we address is a point. I'm an electrical engineer, so contrary, not a software engineer as a background. So we, as engineer people, we need to think, electrical engineer people, to move from our tradition to be hardware driven, to be more software driven. And that means rethinking completely what we call interoperability. And that's where exactly we want to go with this coordination support action. And that's, again, a call for, in a few months, in a official, we should start 1st of April, if everything, the process goes right. Now, this want to be an embracing concept, is a coordination support action. And we call also here for cooperation in the future, because this is something that at the end should be owned by everybody. It's not about who is running the project at the moment. With that, thank you, and I'm closed with my statement.
Thank you, Antonello. As an old project officer, I relate very easily to what you say about the way in which European projects work. But okay, this is a long story. I want to give the floor to Michael Hubner, which is the coordinator of the joint programming platform Smart Energy System, and also involved in the partnership for clean energy transition. We are a bit late, so please, let's try to go ahead quickly. Michael, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for the invitation. Just for my background, one word, I'm working at the Austrian Ministry of Climate Action. So we are ourselves responsible for the energy and innovation policy in Austria. I'm coordinating, as you said, this network of 30 national RDI funding organizations, so public funders for energy innovation all over Europe in more than 25 countries. I have prepared 3 spotlights as an input for our discussion about collaboration. You could say that our 3 spots on observations that we have made that we find are important when we talk about collaboration on the digitalization of energy systems. The first spotlight is integrated and decentralized energy systems. What does it mean? We are talking a lot about integrated systems, and we are talking about a lot of decentralization of energy systems. What does it mean? First, decentralization. Here, I think it is important, and this is just summarizing things that have been already thematized in the first panel very much. It's on the one hand side, of course, about the energy provision and distribution technologies. So that is the x-axis here in this diagram that is going to be more and more decentralized from centralized power stations and networks to decentralized structures. But the important message here is not only these components of the energy systems, but it's also 2 other important pathways of decentralization, or at least where we have to find the right also way how centralized or decentralized we have to be. One of them is markets. We are moving from a small number of specific stakeholders that are interacting and exchanging values to open platforms of many stakeholders down to the very local level. We are talking about energy communities those days, where we are talking about value exchange between private households or regional companies. So this is very new. And it is also, and that is the third dimension here in this diagram, information. So, and this is, I think, a lot of ICT stuff that already has been mentioned. So how are we going, or where is the right shape between a centralized management of the energy system or systems to a decentralized form that could be even a cellular self-regulating system. And this, of course, are three important dimensions that we have to respect when we're talking about the digitalization of energy systems. The second message here is integration. What does it mean when we talk about integration? Now, if you look the blue circle, of course, it's about integration of energy system components and technologies and different energy systems. So it's about sector coupling and flexibility, integration of storage systems, etc. But it's not only that, it's also sector integration. We know, and it is also, has already been mentioned, the transport sector, the new e-mobility, for instance, but also cross-sector integration with agricultural sector, with the industry, and so forth. So integration does not only mean energy system or integration of different part systems of the energy systems, but it's really cross-sectoral. And the third dimension that sometimes maybe not so much in the foreground, and on the other hand side, we also partly want to overcome regional defragmentation of our energy world. But still, it is important to understand that decentralized energy systems have a very strong component that has to do with regional development and value creation change that go down to the regional level and that require that regional actors become really active co-creators and co-innovators of our systems. And here the difficulty, of course, is how to link these very local and regional initiatives and levels with the European knowledge base. Next slide, please. Very quickly, another observation that I think, or that we think in our network is important, is when we look upon the ecosystem of digital enablers and services. We see many initiatives in national programs, but I think also in European projects that are working on their own ICT solutions. And sometimes you get the impression, oh, are we really going that the way that each regional energy innovation initiative will have their own energy blockchain? Does that really make sense? And of course, no, the answer is we have to build this ecosystem of different enablers, from the physical components that generate and collect data to generic enablers, where other specific domain-specific enablers can build on, up to the end business applications and services to the end users. And this, of course, is challenging in terms of interoperability, like we are dealing with in the interoperability network, but also in kind of stakeholder and linking the different innovation ecosystems, what Yatta has been talking about before. Last slide, please. And this is the last message, and it became very obvious, I think, also in the first panel discussion. When we look on energy digitalization in energy, it's of course a number of various domains or fields that we are innovating. It's on the one hand side, of course, the technical operation of energy systems, but resulting also from what I've been saying before, there are solutions needed for market operation in this new energy world, for business operation. The value exchange between different business entities is also changing in this new world, and for communication, or however you want to frame the main message should only be, let's be aware that there's really a broader variety of digital energy system services that are needed. Thank you very much. That was the input from my side.
Thanks, Michael. So I give the word to Susanne Super, cluster manager of the energy flagship region, Green Energy Innovation Lab in Austria. Susanne, up to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction and for the invitation. I'm representing Green Energy Lab, which is one of 3 energy flagship regions in Austria, funded by the Climate and Energy Fund and the Climate Action Ministry. And we have 4 founding members, which are which are 4 quite big energy suppliers in the more eastern part of Austria. And to show our region, please go to the next slide. On this slide, you see our core region. It's the 4 provinces, Styria, Lower Austria, Vienna, and Burgenland. And there we are developing different projects and solutions for the integrated green energy system of the future. And why in this region? This region, it has 2 aspects that are very relevant for the transformation of the energy system. On the one hand, we have a quite high or a very high production of volatile renewable energy in this area, nearly 100% of wind energy production in this area of Austria, and more than 60% of the PV production also in this area. So it's very important to develop solutions for the digital flexible energy system. And the second aspect is that, of course, we also put the user integration, the active participation of the users in the center of our activities. And in this region, there live 5 million people, which is 60% of the Austrian population. So also for this reason, and for the reason that we have urban areas, the city of Vienna, the city of Graz, and rural areas combined in this region, this makes the region very interesting for such innovation projects. And to give you, please go to the next slide. To give you a short overview on the innovation projects, you see them here. We are now coordinating a project portfolio of 40 different innovation projects, and they are covering the whole scope of what is necessary or what are the core topics for these integrated energy systems. We have projects dealing with integrated mobility solutions, for example. Of course, energy communities and grids is one topic, storage system, but also the green heating and cooling. And in this, and for working with this project portfolio and developing new projects, please go to the next slide now. We implemented an innovation process. You see this here. So we are working or supporting the projects right from the beginning. We start with initiating innovation projects in the phase of explore and inspire with different services. We have services for the concrete development of the innovation projects, and also for the phase when the projects are running, when they are working for implementing these innovation projects and the model solutions. And in our network, we have now more than 280 partners. These are startups, but also big companies, research institutions, public institutions, and so on. So these partners are working together in the different projects and are our innovation network, and we are providing our innovation services for them. And on my last slide, I will give you a short overview on the key aspects of this joint innovation processes. Of course, as we also heard before, it's knowledge transfer, co-creation, and leveraging potential synergies. These are the goals or the topic of all this work with the innovation networks. So of course, for example, we provide insight talks. This is a standardized format for the exchange of state-of-the-art know-how, but also gathering controversial perspectives. We are providing and developing more and more foresight services, so to provide an overview on future trends and also technology deep dives, so that the strategy and the further development of the project portfolio goes in the right direction. And as also Chata explained before, this co-creation and co-creation is very important also for us and user integration. And we have a very multidisciplinary approach. So we encourage our network partners to go beyond their own bubble and to work together interdisciplinary. And the third very important aspect is that we focus on the market potential of the developed solutions in the projects right from the beginning. For example, by involving exploitation partners in the project and also providing market readiness checks all over the implementation phase of the projects, so that the focus on the potential for scale up and roll out is supported from the beginning. And not last but not least, we are providing communication and dissemination activities for the general public, for to support user integration activities and so on, but of course also for the expert community. So we are active in conferences and so on, just to explain the solutions, to collaborate with more and more stakeholders, and to have a good basis for this development of solutions for the green future. So with this slide, I want to end. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Susanna. Personally, I learned quite a lot from all this intervention. I was not aware of the regional role and the local dimension of the energy, digital energy platforms, which now I understand. I think it's very important. Also, I appreciated a lot what, for example, Yata and Antonello were saying about the fact that projects have to create consensus on what has to be done before developing a technology, and technological innovation is to be developed in parallel to thinking how to introduce it to the market. Also, of course, this portfolio approach of project integration and involving the user, I think it's quite important for a digital energy platform. Now, as we are late, I would like to combine the two next questions to the panelists, which are, by the way, very much related one to the other. So please try to tell what are the practical ideas, the practical suggestions that you would want to speak out, I mean, for the creation of a European digital energy platform, and how you or your organization better could be useful to that. When I talk about practical ideas, I mean, do we need to go for a sectoral approach, a vertical approach? Who are the actors that have to be involved in this digital energy platform? Which are the aspects related to security, to strategic autonomy, and so on? So how would you address all these things in practice, and what can your organization do about this? So I will start again from Maria Laura. If you can you quickly briefly comment about this? Yes.
Yes, thanks, Sandro. As you saw how we structure our platform, I think from our experience that thematic working groups are working very well. However, the important is that there is a constant dialogue exchange, not only at board level, so with the chair and co-chairs of the working groups, but involving all the members. But who are the members? Who we need to involve? To reply to another question of you, we really, probably, since your target is an SME, are SME public entities in this new platform that you want to create, we can involve them as main stakeholders. But how the interaction with other platforms can build is key. And in this case, for example, ETIPSnet is surely interested in being part of it as advisory board, as exchanger, and so on and so forth. And exchange what? Exchange contacts, exchange knowledge, exchange projects knowledge, even also with Bridge, for example, Bridge initiatives. That is another initiative created by the European Commission that collects results from projects, concretely speaking. How to do this? For sure, thematic interactive workshops on several topics can be useful, is a way, let's say a common way. I think another way could be creating an online forum, for example, animated by the European Commission, because in our experience in ETIPSnet, we really need to have a constant presence of the European Commission, and because these attract people to contribute as much as possible. So this is a suggestion in general from our experience, and interconnection of sectors is key, as we saw now in this discussion. So inviting as members of this platform also stakeholders from other sectors, not only from energy, because as you said correctly, energy is everywhere, and this is a need that is increasing more and more. To find the common language is another key. And avoiding duplication of platform. Hearing Antonello, for example, I really find really interesting all this platform that was created in projects. We also create some ideas. We have a big ideas. We want stop shop for customers toward energy services, and so on and so forth. So we really need to be careful to don't duplicate and don't having million of platform, million of information around. For doing this, we also can contribute with another platform that we really need, that is called EERA, where we collect knowledge from several platforms, and we put all in the same place, this innovation. So concretely speaking, avoiding the application of platform is key now that we are creating new stuff. And exchange of feedback, exchange of contacts is another stuff that we could bring to your idea, and can be beneficial for us and for you as well.
Thank you, Maria Laura. Yatta, do you want to add something?
Yes, I could maybe add, I agree very much with Maria Laura. In fact, when it comes to, first of all, maybe just repeat first that, yes, I agree with Maria Laura concerning the thematic working groups. They act very well, also different types of thematic workshops that are organized in a co-creative manner, so that people are coming from different directions to co-create something together. That would be good. I think what Click Innovation can bring to that is that we are already running a thematic workshop in Finland for the energy system transition, where we have the energy sector companies and energy intensive industries involved, and of course also researchers that are active in that area. So we could engage that community to this kind of thematic discussion at the European level. But when it comes to then these different types of networks and platforms of people that we are managing in different contexts, I think maybe us who are managing these networks should come together and draw a full picture of all the already existing networks, and then really plan forward concrete collaboration activities. It seems that there are so many networks, like I just mentioned the one, and we have the validation network, and we have further planned, as said, inside CTP to go forward with an impact network. So I suggest that we organize a coordinating meeting at some point.
Thanks a lot. Antonello, your opinion.
Yeah, well, first, I agree with everything we've said so far, but I would like to add, because I'm the technical guy here in the team, I would say, I see one issue that we still have to address, which is, in my view, the energy sector has been very reluctant to this transformation. So from the point of view of technology, we talk about smart grid things being around forever, but the introduction of those technology in the grid is not that at that level we expected, which means we need to create a more open ecosystem to kind of disrupt the energy system. And so that more innovative idea really pushed into the market, because the traditional players are kind of slow moving, but as the Commission is saying, we need to be faster than before. Then to me, openness is a key element. Openness means in a technical sense, for example, open source. And because we need to, through open source and a lot of local networking, so the innovation hub we're discussing here, I think is good. So the even a small entity can be pushing this innovation in a better way so that to put the things in motion, because the system per se has a huge inertia and is accepting, let's say, digitalization at a slow rate. Need to create, a mechanism of fast forwarding, and this can be done with more openness, and that's, I think, is critical to keep the agenda in terms of time.
I'm happy to hear that open source resurfaces every now and then, and it's not dead at all. Okay, Michael, your opinion.
Yes, what can we as a network of public funders, RDI funders, as we stand now in the joint program platform Smart Energy Systems and in the advanced network that we are building at the moment, the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, what can we bring to the potluck party, as our Swedish colleagues tend to say? And it is something that we have invented in 2015 and been growing since then. We call that the knowledge community. What we are doing there is we are working with the funded projects, the transnational RDI projects that we are funding actively, not only on their outcomes, but also on their way when they are developing their project and implementing their project in working groups. And I think, and this is something that we have learned from the German e-energy program 10 years ago, together with Ludwig, who was at that time managing this program, that it is important to always have a closer look. What are the burning issues at the moment, and where can you build synergies, and where can you come to conclusions on burning topics? And this is a highly dynamic process. I think that, of course, I mean, every one of us wishes in a complex world that this would become easier. But I think in this complex world, to dream of monolithic structures is a dream. So the only way that we have is, because these structures are context driven, it's always driven from who is involved, and it's not so easy to attract, all the stakeholders to one structure or platform, whatever, and also what. So I think there's no way out to build interlinks and to find ways of structured action of these different networks and initiatives. There's no way out. Of course, the European Commission has a strong gravity force. That is very important. And it is good that we are working in the European Union towards this convergence. But still, we have to manage the interaction. And as Jatta said, I think the leaders or the contact points of these platforms have to come together and find ways. And as I said before, it's a dynamic process, and we have to learn to pick up burning issues, take conclusions, and take them further to the next step or the next level, because it always also depends on where the different stakeholders stand at the moment, where they are working on, what they are working on at the moment, and you have to pick that and to go from there.
Thank you. Susan, do you want to add something?
Yeah, it becomes more and more difficult to add something because a lot of things have been said. But some or 2 points from my point of view, as Michael also said before, it's very necessary to know who is working on what. And this is also our experience. If we are creating or designing stakeholder processes or some networks or special working groups or something like this, we always start with a need analysis, of course, because it's in my point of view very important that people that are working together in this network or in this working group, that they really can contribute, because it always means that they have to invest a lot of time, and so it's necessary that they really can make a change, or that they really can make a contribution or good contribution to this overall vision. And so the selection of stakeholders that are taking part on the different levels or what else is very important. And another issue that we are always facing in our projects are obstacles or very important aspects for cooperation in the field of digitalization. It's, for example, the whole topic or area of the intellectual property rights and things like this. So you have always focus on such topics right from the beginning, because the further you go in the project, it becomes more and more difficult if these topics arise very late, because then you do not have so many possibilities to find good solutions for the consortium. So these are the two aspects that I can add.
Thank you very much. So also this round was very interesting. I understand that thematic working groups are something good that should be considered as, the golden standard. That we have to take care of staying open so that new players can come in. Yes, it's difficult to think that new players can come in the energy market. But when I was a kid, nobody would have thought that new players would have come into the telecom market. It happened a lot. So this is also an important thing. Then there is this clear problem of the main initiatives and networks which are around. I have seen something in the chat about a digital transformation accelerator. I just want to clarify that digital transformation accelerator is not meant for energy. I mean, it's meant to coordinate the European digital innovation hubs, and it will organize thematic workshop, organize online fora that can be used for discussion, but not contribute to it, just make sure that hubs working on energy are in touch with the appropriate initiatives outside of it. So we'll not work on the content, but we'll just make sure that the European digital innovation hubs, which have a local, very regional grounding, they work locally, can also talk to the networks at European level or national level. The problem of IP issues is also something very important. And the proposal on data spaces wants to address this, want to address also, the critical standards, the intellectual property, the ownership of the data, the compensation for the entity which makes their data available. These things are very complex, and I don't think that there is a clear solution now. That's why there are some projects which are starting to look into what is needed for the data spaces, and it will take quite a long time. I mean, we are quite sure of this. Also because I want to tell it once again, let's not forget that when we talk about digitalizing these critical infrastructures, I mean, we have a security, cyber security, and a strategic autonomy issue. With what is happening now in the eastern border of Europe, as we know that no digital system is 100% secure, I will not be happy of having, let's say, vulnerabilities that can make the distribution of energy in Europe subject to attacks from outside. This may be a separate discussion, but something which also should be considered very much when talking about digital energy. So we are late. I think we were supposed to finish now, but we can still maybe play the slide of word cloud. Julia, I asked to my colleague Julia if we have time to do this. Julia, can we proceed with showing the word cloud? Because what we want to do now is to, just in no more than 5 minutes, ask to everybody who is still attending the workshop to write down what you would like to get out of joining a EU digital energy platform. Here it is. Okay, the Slido is on the screen. So you are welcome to type what you want in terms of keywords, in terms of important concepts, and we will try to comment. Well, the first one I think is very important, funding. Because, somebody has said that the European Commission has a very good power of attracting interest. And this is, I fully agree. but I see every day that the power is very much when we have money to put on the table, when there is funding for initiatives, and it's not that strong when it's something different. Okay, let's wait 1 minute to collect the keywords. And in the meantime, if any of the panelists would like to comment on the keywords that we are seeing moving on the screen, I will be happy to hear your opinion.
Sandro, if I may, and I was also writing my keywords, but I live now live. For me, is crucial, really crucial, the fact that the national, regional level is present in this platform with a big role. Because what we are facing, and I show you what are our initiatives in National Stakeholder Coordination Group in ETIPSnet, but when also we organize regional workshops, local workshops, and we look for projects or for understanding what is happening outside. So I don't want to say outside Europe, but in the singular member states, the former European Union, this is really an obstacle that we are finding. So for me, a key action is a strong commitment at national and regional level in being part of these kind of initiatives.
Personally, I'm happy to see interoperability at the center of the word cloud, given what I presented in my slides. And of course, I agree with the one that wrote interoperability. I think what we need is a European level so that also local solution can become European solution. That's where the European dimension makes a lot of sense, because think about a startup, interoperability means I can access market all across Europe, even if I'm a small entity. And I think this is critical to speed up the innovation.
And I like to see the word collaborations. And then there is also this word for intersectorial coordination, which is also critical in my perspective.
Okay, I think we are beyond our time. So Julia, if you are online, maybe you can show your face to try to conclude this interesting workshop. Yes, it's very interesting that interoperability was at the center. It's also interesting that knowledge was a very big word, because we had just yet I think it was you who mentioned the IP issues. All these, if I have to make a conclusion, I want to say that the actions that we have to do to build what we now call data spaces, European data spaces for manufacturing, for energy, for transport and so on, become more and more important. For energy, definitely it's very important to build this data space. I think that my colleagues working on that have some very good ideas, but we are all aware that will be something taking a long time, because we have to work on a lot of technical specification. We have to guarantee interoperability. We have to guarantee the legal context, the economical attractiveness of data spaces. And only in this way we will be able to build an energy platform, but in general, a European Union economy which is based on data. You know, my old commissioner said that data is the oil of the 21st century. That's not exactly true, maybe, but it's certainly something very, very important. And so we should quickly learn how to manage data. And if I may say something, how to manage data the European way. So respecting the right of people who worked to create those data, people who invested, respecting the personal data of European citizens, and having clear and transparent rules so that are valid for everybody, which is not always the case in other parts of the world. So it's an important investment. It's something on which we will, let's say, see the evolution of the European economy and also society in the future. I think that's all. We are well beyond our time. So I would like to thank everybody for the contributions, for the interesting contributions, and at this point close the workshop. I don't know if the colleagues from DG Energy want to say a few words.
Yes, thank you, Sandro. I hope everybody can hear me and see me well. First of all, let me thank you once again for being here today, to moderators, to panelists, but also to the audience. The interaction has been very active, so we are very happy about that. As you know, this workshop was organized with the purpose to prepare the ground, but also to collect a better understanding on this need and appetite for the European digital energy platform that is built on coordination, but also is adapted to local needs, that listen to local and regional realities, and how indeed, in line with what Antonello mentioned, local solutions can become European solutions, and we can accelerate the digitalization of the energy system. This first workshop gathered together for this purpose European Commission services, national, regional, local institutions, the candidate European digital innovation hubs, and the established initiative from the digital and energy industry, having both local and European functions. Also to bring on the table what are the experience, what are the realities that we can learn from. This workshop has indeed represented the first step towards the creation of a European digital energy platform that can support innovation ecosystems, investment, guide investment, create a pathway for that, a pathway for skills and expertise of strategic digital technologies in the energy system, from innovation to deployment, also targeting and focusing on startups and SMEs and smaller realities. During the first panel discussion, we indeed had the chance to discuss what to focus on. So what local and regional innovation ecosystem are focusing on, what are the main challenges to overcome, how to make an impact when it comes to digitalization of energy, and once again, how indeed local solution can become European solution, where is the gap, what is needed, and what can be done through a better coordination and collaboration at European level, what concretely can be done. So we're very happy to say and to conclude that indeed we are all on the same page in recognizing that indeed we would need this stronger cooperation and collaboration at European level, bringing together local, regional entities, SMEs, public organization, and what we call center of expertise. The topic on the tables are, to a certain extent, usual suspects, meaning digital solutions perceived as key enabler to accelerate the energy transition, but also having an approach that is citizen and consumer centric, an approach that is both top down and bottom up, since the main driver needs to be the commitment and the engagement, the consensus and the awareness, not only when it comes to research innovation on specific solution, but also on the need to integrate them in the energy system, what are the benefits, but also how to make it happen. And this comes also with the needs to build knowledge communities, meaning we said in the first panel, we need horizontal and vertical sharing of best practices. We need use cases that do not only stay in the labs, but can be tested on the ground. The need to coordinate local realities. So this, we're very happy to conclude on that indeed there is this need of making the connection between local realities so that they can share best practices, they can scale up solutions that are developed at local and regional level, but also connect them with the European network. And during the second panel discussion, we exchange on, okay, so if we think about such platform, how this platform should look like, and how do we make sure that we build on synergies, we add values on top on what already exists, and who to involve. I think that here, first thing that that came crystal clear is that it's not only about energy. Of course, is not only about energy and digital sectors communicating and interacting between each other, but also about other sectors. The energy transformation is not happening in silos. So having this platform will also help in breaking silos between sectors. We need to start from what we have. So interaction with other platforms. And we need to start from common thematic issues, from common challenges, with a focus, of course, with the scope of creating this openness where new players and new business model can emerge. What we heard and what we agree with is need to shake a bit this inertia of the energy sector, to really create this consensus, to create a common language between energy, digital players, but also between different sectors, to involve even small realities and really to accelerate the innovation life cycle and bringing digital solution in the energy sector so that we can all work towards a common goal and we can establish a common agenda. These are the main, I would say, keywords and concepts that we are getting out of this workshop. We have a lot of interesting ideas on the table. As already announced, this aims to be the first workshop of a series of exchanges that will build on this first outcome on how to create such platform. So what I would like to ask the panelists, the moderator, but also the participants is inviting them, as this is a work in progress, is of course food for thought for our digitalization of energy action plan. This work and this need of promoting investment is also very much linked with the overall action plan and the other areas we're focusing on. Data access, data exchange, cybersecurity, privacy were mentioned during the panel. So we invite you to share with us, okay, so where do we start? Based on the discussion of today, what concrete steps and concrete actions, what concretely can be put on this agenda? And if a dialogue needs to start, as you said, between the owners or the leaders of already existing platforms, then who is in? Where do we start this dialogue? Can we start to setting up a few points that we can discuss on? And of course, this platform needs, once again, to be as open as possible with key players involved. So we really invite you to have your say on this. And with this, I would like to conclude the workshop. Before doing that, just a special thanks to all my colleagues, to moderator, to the panelists, and even more special one to Maria and Cristiana, my colleagues who helped make this workshop happening. And thank you so much for joining us today. We are very happy with the discussion we had. So thank you and have a nice Friday. Bye.
Bye-bye.